This video will be the first in a series where I will show how to create iron-on patterns from PDF patterns, which I mostly use for making doll clothes. The software programs I use are Inkscape, which is a free open source software that is downloadable from the web, and Cricut Design Studio, which is also a free software that you can download to use with your Cricut machine. For many years I've used Cricut a lot rather than Cricut Design Studio, but the newer machines made by Cricut can only use the Cricut Design Studio, so we're going to be using that program instead. In this video, I will show you how to import and trace the PDF pattern in Inkscape. When I hand draw my patterns, I'll scan my patterns on my scanner, and then I'll import them into Inkscape, and then I trace them so I can create a really clean and professional looking pattern. In the next video, I'll show how to clean up this SVG file for import, and then how to import the file into Cricut Design Studio to cut out the pattern. Cutting out the patterns this way is especially useful when I make a batch of doll clothes. The Cricut cuts the patterns very precisely, and I can cut out 10 patterns, which I can then iron onto the fabric. I also use it to scale patterns if I want to modify the designs. It's a lot easier than having to recut out a pattern all over again. So we're going to get started on what kind of software I do, and I'm going to start out in PixieFair. This is one of my favorite places to buy patterns. So you see, just go to pixiefair.com. And then they have quite a few free patterns. They have a weekly one, but we're going to go to the free patterns that are just always up there. And I'm going to be showing how to do a pattern for the Hearts for Hearts doll. So we're going to get the free t-shirt pattern for the 13 to 14 inch dolls. And you'll just add it to your cart and check out. You might have to create an account if you haven't been there before, but I love PixieFair, so if you are into making doll clothes, it's a great site to use. So this is the PDF pattern that they send you. You'll go to the page that has the pattern on it. So we're going to use this, and you see it's page 9. So we're going to save this file to a drive where we're going to be able to find it to put it into Inkscape. So we'll be pulling that up. So we'll save it. And then we're going to use Inkscape. And I'm going to show you really quickly how to get that program on your computer. So you'll need to go to Inkscape. So this is the website. I just did a Google search, and I just put in Inkscape, and it's the first thing that comes up. I've been using this for years, and I've been really happy with it. It's pretty versatile to do a lot of different things, so download the correct one for your computer. And then you'll have to go through the standard process of, hitting the execute file and installing it on your computer. This is what Inkscape looks like when you open it. So we'll just open it, and then right away we'll import that PDF file. So we'll just get our t-shirt pattern that we've saved as a PDF. And I click open. And here it's going to give you some options. Remember, we want the pattern page that's on page 9, so we'll select that, and it'll show it that in the window over here. And you just click OK, and it'll import it. So here we go. We've got the PDF pattern just ready to go. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to trace it. So we're going to use this tool here at the side, and you'll just click on kind of each of the corners, everywhere where the pattern changes direction. We're going to create these nodes. This is an SVG software, and it uses different nodes for creating shapes. So that last one, you'll want to connect the first dot to the last dot. And then I like to change the color so that I can see it, because the pattern here is all blue, or it's all black. So I'll change my pattern color to blue, and you can just kind of click around. And you want to make sure you're at the stroke paint, because otherwise the fill will cover up the rest of the pattern. So then I go and I highlight all the nodes. And then I want to get all those nodes and make sure that they are kind of bendable. Right now they're all just straight, so I'm going to make them bendable, and then I'm going to select all the ones that I want straight, and I'll use a straightening tool and straighten them all. And I'm going to do all these pattern pieces, so you'll see this process a couple times in case it's kind of confusing. So you want to really zoom in so you can get these nodes exactly on the corners, because you want this to be very precise, especially when you're dealing with really small doll clothes. A 1/16 of an inch can actually make a little bit of a difference. It can change the fit of the item. So this node here, I'm going to have to modify it. I want it so it bends both ways, which is that tool. So now I can move one side of the node without moving the other. And actually I have quite a few of these that are going to need to be bendable, so I'm going to make them all bendable nodes. Alright, now they're all bendable, so I'm going to zoom in, and all of these, I'm going to make sure I get the blue line right on top of that black line so that it'll match the pattern perfectly. And I'm going to zoom way in so that I can make sure I get this just right. And it looks like I've moved one of the nodes I didn't want to, so I'll put that back. You just click on the node, drag it back over, and then adjust these little bobs on the end of the node thing. So we'll keep doing this until we get everything pretty close to exactly where the pattern line is. Just keep adjusting all the nodes. You have to zoom in and out quite a bit so that you get just the right place. And this one I'm having a little trouble matching up. There's a little bit too much kind of snaking of the curve, so I'm trying to get these right, but I think I'm going to end up having to add a new node. So remember when we went through in the beginning and we just added a node to each corner. I think I'm going to need to zoom out. I'll keep trying to play with this a little bit, but I think we're going to have to zoom out, and then I'll select those two nodes. I'll go up in the corner and there's an add node button, so we'll click that and we'll add another node in the middle, and that'll allow us to just get this a little bit closer. I might be being a little too picky with this, like maybe those angles aren't that important, but if you find that it is, this is how you fix that problem. Just add another node and you get a little more precise with your tracing. Alright, so this one looks pretty good. So I'm going to highlight it, and I'm going to want to duplicate it. I usually use a lot of shortcuts, so I'm trying to use menu options here to show you where to find it on there in case you're not familiar with the shortcuts. So I'm going to hit duplicate, and it'll keep it exactly where it is. I'm going to flip it over because you can see this is the front of the shirt, and the pattern says to cut it on a fold. But when I'm cutting really small doll clothes, I don't want to use the fold. So I'm going to join these two pattern pieces, and they have to overlap just a tiny bit. I'm trying to decide if that's too much or if I can get away with just combining it there. So I'm going to highlight both these pieces, and then I'm going to go to Path and Union, and it should join them. It looks like it didn't because it looks like they didn't actually overlap. Those lines are a little bit thick and you can't really tell. So I'm going to undo that. And I'm going to redo where I moved it, and I'm going to double check and make sure they're overlapping just a little bit. So you've got to really zoom in, because as long as they overlap, they'll be fine. But it looks like that's where it cut before, or where it was before, and it didn't work. So we're going to highlight both of these pattern pieces, the one on the left and the one on the right. Oh, you know, I realize I probably want to duplicate this and use it for the back. That's going to be another pattern piece, and my nodes are already set up. So now I'll just duplicate that, and then I'll highlight these two, and then I'll join their paths. So if you hit Union, now you can see this is just one piece. So it's what your pattern should what your fabric should actually look like when you cut it. So we've got that one already. So now we're going to just flip this over, and we're going to use this pattern and just adjust it for the back. So the back is not on a fold, so we're going to want to just cut out two of these once we get to Cricut. We'll just trace this one here, just the same way we did before, except for that we're not going to, of course, join it in the middle. And then when we cut it out on the freezer paper, in the Cricut, we're going to want to make sure that we cut a left and a right, so that you can iron them on and you're not trying to go through multiple layers of fabric or have it overlapping, because with doll clothes you really want to make sure your cutting is perfect. Just being off by a 1/16 of an inch is going to ruin the project, really, so you've got to make sure that everything's where it should be. Alright, that one looks pretty good. I think we'll make sure we get everything just right on that. Once again, this blue line will help us. Alright, so at this point we've covered everything pretty much. I'm just going to do the sleeve for one more, kind of showing you how to trace. Of course we want to get all these nodes just right. Make sure all the angles are good so that the fit will be exactly what it's meant to be. Alright, so that's how we've done those two. I've scrolled over too far, so I'll just show you really quickly how to do the sleeve, and the sleeve should be quick because it just has 4 corners and there are a lot less twists and turns. So we'll trace this one, again using the tracing tool, put the nose on each of the corners. And we'll do the top of that bump. It's not really a corner, but it's going to be a lot easier to get the curve right if we've got that extra node. So what we did again is we highlighted all the nodes, and then we want to turn them, we'll make them so they're adjustable, and we'll make them so that they're all two-way adjustable. I don't know the names of those, but I think the tool has a name on it. So then we make it blue so we can see where it's not meeting the black line, and we can tell which our pattern line is. And we'll adjust all these nodes and get all the curves right. And there's another tool. So actually, you can, sometimes this works, you can just go to the pattern and the program will automatically just trace it for you. I've had a little trouble converting that to the file that needs to go into Cricut. So you can see what I'm doing here is I got this, I was able to grab this that the pattern's already traced, and I'm going to see if I can duplicate it and just not have to go through the tracing process. So you have to use that tracing tool so it captures the nodes, and then you can grab that piece of the pattern and drag it over. It's a little tricky because I've got so many things going on there, but you can see that's already traced. So hopefully I can use that, and I'm going to try to see if I've actually been using Cricut / I haven't had a lot of experience with the Cricut pattern, so I'm going to pull that one aside, and then I'll bring the original back over here so I can finish tracing it in case that process doesn't work. We're going to try that. Alright, so now I'll go back to my blue pattern that I'm tracing and adjust all the nodes. I'm going to quickly do this. I'll probably clean it up a little bit more than I'm going to show on the screen just to save time so you don't have to watch me do this. But I thought this might be useful to show the process a couple times and a couple different tools on how to do this. Alright, so here we have all of our 3 pattern pieces traced. So we're going to save it as an SVG file. You can see the file type is SVG. And I usually will try to save my PDF patterns and my SVG files with pretty much the same name. I want something descriptive, but sometimes I'll put them in their own folder. Alright, so we've saved that as an SVG file. Now we're going to use the Cricut Design Space. So this is the website you can go to. I already had an account there, but this is kind of what we're going to do. We're going to go into Upload.